we got ourselves a video from Mr. Probably Pretentious. It's called Here's Why Solo Leveling Just Works. Let me guess. The overall take of why solo leveling just works is because solo leveling fully understands what it's about. Aura farming, flexing, mogging, mewing, hype fights, action. And it's very simple. And because it can deliver on that simple premise really well, rather than making it complicated and trying to be convoluted, it appeals. It's simple, but that's all you need. You don't need something so complex, man. Just know what you're about and do it well. Let's get it.
Fun. If you ask me to describe solo leveling in one word, that's the one I'd go with, fun. Solo leveling is a lot of fun. And I think most would agree that so far, that's all this show is. An episode of solo leveling won't make you question your worldview, it won't change your life, it won't turn you into...
Not quite yet. Maybe there's going to be some commentary about the loss of humanity in like the internal like psychology of Sung Jin-woo as he continues to kill and, you know, falls into the powers of the Shadow Monarch, but not really just yet, right? Not really. There's little hints of that being spread around, but so far it's just non-stop hype, action, fun.
To an armchair philosopher, thank God. It won't do any of that, it will simply be fun. But can a word that simple justify the immense popularity and goodwill this show has?
Yeah, have you seen Demon Slayer? Demon Slayer is the perfect example of you don't need a complex, contrived, deep philosophical story to be wide appealing. In fact, wide appealing would rarely be, you know, touching upon those kind of topics. Why would wide appealing things, usually be derived from shows like Solo Leveling or Demon Slayer? Because it's hype, because it's fun. Do you know how many kids there are out there? The target audience, it's a lot of younger audiences, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of children enjoy hype shows. That's why Battle Shonen is the biggest genre. The market audience for Battle Shonen far surpasses, shows like, I don't know, let's say 86, for example, just in the top of my head, trying to think of, a too deep for me kind of show, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense why something as simple and as fun as hyper solo leveling, and such as Demon Slayer 2, can be very successful.
Can a show receive hundreds of thousands of likes per episode, crash multiple streaming sites, and receive sky-high ratings everywhere simply by being fun? Or is there more to it? Well, let's talk about it. Let's try to uncover the secret behind solo leveling and its popularity.
I don't think there's even a secret, man. I think that there's a little bit other stuff, like an existing fandom that, before the anime even happened, right? A very loyal and big fandom of solo leveling enjoyers that knew what the show was about, so obviously that kind of helps do it. A1 Pictures doing a fantastic job adapting the source material, getting immense talents to work on this project, which is something you rarely see in a webtoon anime. I mean, just look at Tower of God Season 2, right? Or even God of High School or other these shows where things just get ruined due to just lack of scheduling, talent, pacing, stuff like that, right?
Spoiler alert, there is in fact more to it. Make sure to subscribe. For this video, I'll default to the anime because of two main reasons. One, I think the anime is more popular, although someone needs to crunch the numbers on that. And two, I think the anime is significantly better than the manhwa. And
I don't know. I haven't read the webtoon, right? That's a crazy claim to say, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
That's not just because it features top-notch production when needed. The solo leveling anime heavily expands upon the contents of the source, it changes the overall perspective, adds a bunch of anime-only stuff, and
the anime-only fight scenes are really appreciated though. Absolutely.
As a whole, makes the story more engaging. This is a topic I've covered in detail before. Because of this, I feel like the anime is a better representation of the title, so that's the version I'll look at. With all that out of the way, let's get to it. Let's start by answering a simple question. Why is solo leveling fun?
Why? Because Sung Jin Woo is hype. You see the weakest hunter getting a crazy power that also isn't just making him OP from the beginning. There's a progression that feels deserved. Quite often, there's these isekai shows that we watch, and some people just get OP powers immediately, and there can be a lot of fun to be had with that, especially if the show doesn't take itself seriously and it's more rooted in comedy. But sometimes it just feels kind of bullshit, you know, and it's just like, whatever. In Solo Leveling, it feels deserved. You can feel the incremental progression, almost like a video game, because that's pretty much what the system is, right? So hype fights, you know, with power fantasy, that's why it's so fun to watch.
Why is it so entertaining? Well, the short answer would be the fact that it's a power fantasy. The main character does cool things, and that inherently is fun to watch.
Yeah?
Besides that, the show features a ton of good-looking action, and that too is inherently fun. And as modern philosopher Yui Hirasawa once said, fun things are fun.
True, fun things definitely are fun.
It's not rocket science. Solo Leveling does things with proven track records and reaps the benefits. But like I said near the start, that alone doesn't justify the immense popularity this show boasts. There are an n number of action-heavy power fantasies out there. Basically every other isekai fits that description.
I don't know. I don't think every other isekai has the same level of quality as we see in Solo Leveling. In fact, most other isekais are absolute ass. The fight scenes are so fucking lame. It's just a PowerPoint presentation where instead of you're seeing the actual sword being drawn and a cut happening onto an enemy, you just see a flash of light with like a line across the screen, and then boom, the monster's already cut. The production value of most isekai is absolutely ass. And usually we watch the isekais not really for the fight scenes, but more of the slice of life and the other shenanigans that happens with the fan service, right? That's pretty much it. I think Solo Leveling excels because obviously the production is good. The power fantasy feels deserved. There is an existing audience out there that before even the anime even aired. For example, Zenshu, it's hard for people to get on board with Zenshu because it's an anime original. Solo Leveling already had a massive fandom and success with the webtoon. So I think all of these things attribute to why it's such a big hit success.
But most of them cannot touch Solo Leveling in terms of popularity and impact. Part of it is due to the source material. Sure, the manhwa is huge, but that's not all there is to it. I think Solo Leveling is as well received as it is because of the combined effect of two factors. One, its ability to strike the perfect balance between self-indulgent power fantasy tropes and an all-around decent story, and two, its production value. The appeal comes from the way these two factors play off each other and create a story that's more than the sum of its parts.
Basically just power fantasy done right and good production value. I think that there is a little bit more to it though, right? With the existing fandoms that I've been talking about over and over again, but at its simplest core, it really is that simple. Just well-deserved power fantasy that makes sense and make it look pretty, and then reap the rewards.
We'll go through these factors first and then talk about how they collectively make Solo Leveling so universally enjoyable. Let's start with the obvious one. Solo Leveling as a whole looks and sounds great. The team has clearly put a lot of love and effort into it. I have in the past gone on about how important good action animation is for an
That's right, we actually watched this, and animation quality does matter a lot. A mid-story can be absolutely carried by great production value. But the inverse also can be true, right? This isn't just like an absolute thing of, oh, poor animation but great story. Like, it's obviously unfortunate what happened to shows like So I'm a Spider, So What? I think that is an anime that holds a very dear spot in my heart because the story is so compelling. I love the mysteries, the crazy world building, and the theory crafting that happens, right? With all these different guesses. But the animation quality is so fucking bad. The CGI fights at the end, what the hell was that? But because the story is so good, I'm willing to overlook it. Here's another thing though. It's not really just about the story. Because you can remember, I constantly bring up the example of Blue Lock Season 2 and Tower of God Season 2. If story is all you needed to have an enjoyable show, then why the fuck does Tower of God Season 2 do so bad? Because it's not enough that the story material is good. It's the overall adaptation, the overall direction of that story. Does the production staff even understand what they're adapting and can they bring it to light? Even if the animation quality is not there, can they do the story justice? For Tower of God Season 2, that was not the case. Blue Lock and Tower of God Season 2, both, they had their best arcs. Maybe not the best arcs, but the Workshop Battle arc in Tower of God and the U20 arc in Blue Lock are some of the most excited and anticipated arcs from the source, material readers. Blue Lock had abysmal animation, but the story is so hyped, and because the team worked so closely with the author and they knew exactly what moments mattered, the PNG sliding absolutely was ass, but the story still carried. Tower of God, the Workshop Battle arc, the way that people were glazing this arc was on another level, yet it failed to deliver. Even if the animation was a little bit better in a PNG slog, they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. I don't think that the studio, Answer Studio, and the team that worked on it even fucking understood the story of Tower of God. It flopped so hard, and I will always go back to that example to portray that it's not just the existing story in the source material. It's how you're able to adapt that story, right? And then, if we come out of that context, right now, there's a season of anime isekai that we're watching called Mail Order Isekai. The dude that basically, just has Amazon Prime and orders stuff and just lives a chill life. That anime probably has one of the shittiest production value in this season. Straight up. Maybe Nutmaster competes, but I feel like dude, Mail Order Isekai, the around 40-year-old, just living a slow life isekai, that shit is ass. But the story is so fun to watch. It's so addicting to watch. Even if the animation is absolute doo-doo butter, the story carries. So I think that animation quality does matter. Story also matters. You can have situations where great animation can carry mid-story. And you can also have situations where great story can carry mid-animation. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Action anime. It's the beating heart, it's the selling point, it's the conduit that brings the story to life. The absence of good action animation can cripple an action anime.
That's an important thing too. For Mail Order Isekai, it's not an action show. It's more about a middle-aged man going around fucking bitches, breaking hearts, and leaving, bro. You don't need to focus on action. For Solo Leveling, you need the action. If Solo Leveling did not have great action, that shit would have flopped so hard. And that's pretty much why Tower of God also flopped so hard in Season 2. Action was absolute ass.
Regardless of how well written it is, production value is immensely important, especially for an action-heavy show. Now yes, Solo Leveling is not a Mob Psycho or a Jujutsu Kaisen in terms of production value, but it is significantly better than the industry average. As a whole, it looks great. Sure, not every fight looks spectacular, but there are plenty of spectacular fights. Not every drawing looks strong, but there are plenty of strong drawings. You get the idea. The soundtrack created by the one and only Hiroyuki Sawano is
bangs. I love the soundtrack. I just wish that the soundtrack played a little bit louder during important scenes. Since you mentioned this before, but it's not as if the soundtrack is absent, and there are definitely key notable soundtracks, from Sawano that appeals heavy to the Solo Leveling fan base, but like when I think of like Attack on Titan, I think of really crazy moments where like the soundtrack is dominating the scenes. For Solo Leveling, it is really just kind of behind the scenes, just supporting. And that's what soundtrack should be doing, right? It should be supporting the rest of it. But kind of odd that Hiroki Sawano's project, it's just like usually I would just expect the soundtrack to be just fucking blaring as the action is going crazy. But in episode 6, season 2, it just kind of was just chilling in the background.
is great as well. I don't know how they got Sawano to lock in for a non-Tetsuro Araki project, but I'm glad they did. These factors collectively elevate the show. Think of how much the soundtrack Dark Aria added to episode 6.
True.
Think of how energetic and impactful the animation quality made episode 11 feel.
True.
Think of how cool episode 6 was, again due to the animation and the soundtrack. Of course, the voice acting work is remarkable as well.
Yeah, I think voice acting though is such a... Here's the thing, I don't really praise voice acting because that's just default expected. Japanese voice acting is so competent that like the most baseline mediocre voice actors are so good. I never have to really think about, wow, the voice acting is amazing here. Unless it's specific shows like, let's say, Guild Receptionist, where it's a Takahashi Rie highlight reel of her just being able to express herself in the craziest ways possible. Very rarely will I think that, oh my god, the voice acting for Solo Leveling was so good. Because that's the default expectation.
Well, the all-around production makes scenes and fights feel more important, and that's crucial. Solo Leveling features a plethora of fights, and most of them aren't exactly masterclasses of writing. Sung fights monsters, Sung wins, stronger Sung fights stronger monsters.
That's it. Fight monster, win, level up, fight stronger master, win, level up, fight stronger master, win, level up. You can reduce Solo Leveling to the most simplistic core to this, bro. It's just a loop of fight person, get stronger, fight stronger thing, repeat. But here's the thing. You don't need complex, deep storytelling to appeal wide. In fact, having a very simple Unga Bunga show that's well animated, has great soundtracks, those can even appeal to more, because again, think about the main target audience for shows like this. I'm not saying that Demon Slayer and Solo Leveling are identical, but at its core, they are hype monsters. Both are carried by the exciting hype fights, and it appeals to a lot of kids. That's again why Battle Shonen is the biggest genre of the amount of people that watch anime. There's just a lot more kids that have a lot more time to watch anime than a bunch of grown-ass men who are too tired to watch anime or play video games after they watch a 9 to 5 and return home to their fucking girlfriend or wife and have other responsibilities. Some of them will probably just watch isekai instead.
Stronger Sung wins and repeat. That's what most, not all, most of the action from this show is like. The selling point in most cases isn't the context behind the fights, it's the execution, the hype, the choreography, etc.
Absolutely. Not the context of the fights, but the execution.
And strong production makes those aspects stand out. All of that, of course, is common knowledge. Anyone with working eyes and ears could figure that out. The more cryptic reason behind this show's success is its writing and the way the writing exploits the positives of the power fantasy genre.
This part probably has to do with like power fantasy done right. The way that Jinmu levels up, grinds, starts from the lowest but eventually gets stronger. You see that progressive growth. It's addicting, like in video games. Whenever you start to get stronger, you get to equip new gear and learn new skills, be able to overcome new challenges. You love that progression. I feel like Solo Leveling really delivers that well.
Without falling victim to the negatives, let me elaborate. Power fantasies at their best are appealing because they allow for a certain degree of self-insertion and wish fulfillment. I know that sounds sad, but that stuff appeals to a wide audience. The problem, however, is that it's very easy for an author to get carried away. A work might be...
That's right. Usually happens in shows near the end. Near the tail end of action scene, shows like this, right? Power scaling starts to get blurred. That's the tricky thing with power scaling. In the beginning, it's kind of easy to, delicately balance the powers as you're just starting out and, you kind of just progress slowly but surely. But near the end game, like, motherfuckers, like, dude, we used to just be throwing shurikens, and just changing into logs and, have shadow clone jutsu and, like, Rasengan was pretty cool. Like, you know what I'm saying in Naruto? Near the end, bro, we throw in, like, fucking planetary beams and crazy-ass, like, meteors and it just goes crazy. What the fuck is Tenten doing? Tenten is working at the shop back home selling shurikens because she got power crept. Jokes aside, when battle shonen or battles, action hype scenes, it gets to the tail end, it gets pretty blurred. And Solo Leveling, I don't think is really there just yet. I don't know how much exactly of the plot we have left, but I feel like we're not really at the end game just yet. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to this delicate balance of power scaling. Will it continue to make sense? Or will it just turn into just another blobby mess where you don't really care about, the progression anymore because Jinmu can just summon Exodia and just clear everything?
Too indulgent or too straightforward to the point where it feels purposeless. Your typical power fantasy tends to feel cheap, feel unimportant, but that's not the case with Solo Leveling. Some might say it is, but I, and based on the numbers this show does, many more disagree. Let me use an analogy here. Solo Leveling, this will sound like an insult, but it's not, I promise. Solo Leveling is junk food, it's McDonald's.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Straight up. And there's a reason why McDonald's is one of the most successful businesses in the world. Know what you're signing up for. That's it. You can have the most fanciest Michelin star grade food, but quite often it's gonna taste like fucking Pretentious, and it's not gonna fill you up. But if you go to McDonald's and you order a fucking Big Mac with, you know, large fries and just fucking McFlurry or whatever, you're probably gonna feel pretty good at the end of the day, you know? So again, there's different, you know, target audiences for different, let's say, restaurants or genres or types of anime like that. And there's nothing wrong with Solo Leveling being McDonald's. They do it really well.
I know that sounds bad, but stay with me. Solo Leveling is fast food, while your typical power fantasy anime is just pure oil and grease. It's raw sugar. There's no technique to it, nothing to convert that oil and that sugar and what.
Good comparison. Rather than just random ingredients, right? Random processed food ingredients, Solo Leveling actually combines it all together and delivers it well. I think that currently there is that one show that I keep, you know, malding and complaining about. The I have the weakest appraiser skill, but it's actually super OP. That show pisses me off because the power is not earned at all, and the show acknowledges it. The most recent episode even talked about a lot of it, right? And it had to do more with like the kindness of, you know, Ain's heart, the main character, whatever. But that show, again, listen, that show also is dude doing hype stuff. Dude gets OP powers, is now getting, you know, just flexing and beating OP monsters. But guess what? And the production value too, I think is pretty damn good. Obviously not on the level of Solo Leveling, but of all the different shows airing right now, dude, Appraiser, I think, stand out in the fantasy, you know, and the isekai, you know, esque type of genre shows. But why do nobody really talk about it? Why does no one really give a fuck about it? Because the power of fantasy is done in a very cheap way. It doesn't feel deserved at all. Already I'm clocked out. There's nothing to measure his power against. In the beginning, he was getting fucked up, but now he's so OP, all of these different SSSS rank monsters are just being defeated so easily. In Solo Leveling, there's a slow progression that feels earned, that feels like it makes sense, that you can respect. In shows like Appraiser, where everything is given immediately and he just starts wiping the floor with everything, there is nothing that I really give a fuck about the action anymore. There's nothing at stakes. I already know he's gonna win. Nothing so important. We're just watching it for the fun, slice of life element and the fan service that comes from it.
But not into food. Solo Leveling, on the other hand, is a fresh off the grill, fully cooked fast food meal, perhaps from one of those nicer places instead of McDonald's.
Five Guys?
Why is that? Because it doesn't just rely on power fantasy tropes. It takes power fantasy ingredients and uses battle shonen utensils to cook them. Alright, that food analogy is getting out of hand, I'll stop. Basically, it doesn't just borrow from the power fantasy genre, it also incorporates battle shonen elements into the story. In a way, it ends up being the best of both worlds. To simplify things even further, in case that long-winded food analogy was too much for you, Solo Leveling doesn't just rely on the power fantasy trope of a protagonist being overpowered. It pairs that with the immensely popular battle shonen trait of a protagonist having to grind and struggle in an effort to become.
There it is, right? Grind and struggle. The earning part of the power rather than all just being given. The delicate power scaling that's being done to make you actually respect the threats that we're facing rather than being like, oh, what's Isekai MC gonna clear today in this episode with no difficulty?
Become stronger, and that right there is one of the secret ingredients. Wait, that was another food analogy, wasn't it?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. What's the biggest problem with a power fantasy protagonist? In my opinion, it's
The power scaling, honestly. Time after time, I just don't give a fuck about these dudes with OP powers that just does everything so easily. Why do I care about it? you don't give us a reason to care about it.
It's the fact that his or her, mostly his to be honest, powers and achievements don't feel deserved.
Yes.
He's cool, sure, but that's all there is to it.
Yes.
On the other hand, one of the biggest problems with a typical battle shonen protagonist is how straightforward, simple-minded, and hot-headed he is. I personally find most shonen main characters to be lame, which makes sense because I'm not exactly the target audience.
Exactly right. I mean, the bro's name is probably Pretentious. Do you think that Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach is made for him? I mean, you can still enjoy it, but like, again, the example I give of like why is Battle Shonen so appealing? Because the main target audience is a bunch of children. Battle Shonen, bro. Shonen Jump. What does shonen even mean? Young boys.
By borrowing from both power fantasy and battle shonen, Solo Leveling manages to craft a hybrid protagonist. Sung Jin-woo is incredibly cool, he's fun to watch, he's level-headed, but at the same
like the aesthetics I think really plays into it, right? He's stylish, he's got cool hair, his eyes glow, his chin is pointy, he's got cool drip, he's got nice clothes, he's tall, he's muscular, he gets all the bitches, right? All these different things, I'm saying it out loud, sounds pretty cringe, but these are the things that makes Jinmu so likable. He's such a hype beast.
watch, he's level-headed, but at the same time, he is somewhat compelling. We saw him claw his way up from nothing, we saw him nearly die multiple times. Of course, that doesn't mean Sung is up there with the best written protagonists, not even close, but he is an entertaining character. As for the story,
like he's gone through the trials and tribulations in the beginning that makes us feel like, okay, he's getting these new OP powers at a steady rate. Fine, because he earned it, right? He's not just given random bullshit for no reason. Clearly, he's gone through so much sacrifice and turmoil to achieve those things. And that's why it's a lot more like acceptable from my end whenever he becomes stronger and stronger of like, yeah, I think it's deserved, and I think that the way that they're scaling the power is good enough. But again, a lot of the other isekais happening right now where the dude just are OP immediately, it's just, I don't have that same vibe.
Itself, Solo Leveling is incredibly straightforward. Of course, the narrative will get more complex as the story progresses, but at no point will it end up being an Attack on Titan-esque mindfuck. I've said this before, Solo Leveling knows exactly what it is and it plays its cards accordingly. It knows what the fans want, but at the same time, it knows that giving them too much will make the story feel cheap. And that's a big thing. Solo Leveling gives you what you want, but it does so at the right time. Sung Jin-woo is extremely strong, yes, but that wasn't always the case. Even after reawakening, Sung got his rear end handed to him on multiple occasions. He won the fights he was in, but he did so by the skin of his teeth. The story portrays Sung as both invincible and as an underdog. Again, the
perfect way to again balance the power scaling, to have him earn these things by having such tough challenges, right? Where again, you are now way more accepting of him being that powerful because of the things that he had to do to get there.
Of both worlds. That, coupled with the production value and the incredibly well structured and choreographed action, makes the fights really entertaining to watch. Alright, those were the two factors, but like I said near the start, there's more to it. What I talked about so far explains why Solo Leveling is fun. It doesn't explain why the show is as popular as it is.
I mean, I think that it being fun definitely goes hand to hand of why it's so popular. You think people don't want to watch fun things? Of course they do. But I think there's also the added element, again, of it not being anime original. It is an existing IP with a huge fandom that loves this show. Sorry, this manhwa. And because of that, obviously, it's well received. A lot of, content creators like Giguk and so on have glazed the shit out of Solo Leveling before its launch, right? Calling it like, is this the next beaut thing? Obviously, I think that actually does help, right? It definitely, can only help if you do stuff like that. What other reasons could there be to Solo Leveling's popularity? Maybe some stuff from the marketing side? The way that I heard that the DVD Blu-ray sales were absolutely abysmal in Japan. But I'm trying to think, like, what other reasons could Solo Leveling have such a widespread appeal? The memes? It's very memeable too, right? The whole Sung Chin Mu stuff is hilarious. There's also, I don't know how much the sister leveling stuff is gonna really help solo leveling. But I definitely see a lot of people saying, bro, I don't even watch, solo leveling. I only check out sister leveling because it's so funny. But now I actually want to check out solo leveling because of sister leveling. Seeing tons of comments and people kind of talking about stuff like that. So maybe all these things definitely help solo leveling get even more exposure.
It doesn't explain why so many around the world are genuinely, unironically, and earnestly enjoying it. So why is it, and why are they? Well, the answer is actually really simple. Like really f***ing simple. People watch anime, a form of entertainment, with the intention of being entertained. That's it. The main goal is to be entertained. However, it is difficult to be entertained by a show that's clearly trying way too hard to be entertaining. Doing so makes the audience feel like their intelligence is being insulted. Most power fantasy shows
What intelligence being insulted? It's solo loving audience's intelligence. Do you think they have any intelligence? Listen, I'm just trying to be very objective right now. And I'm no better. I'm just a monkey. The brain goes crazy and the dopamine hit, rushes whenever Jinmu is just fucking flexing on them hoes and he says erect, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like the average person watching solo leveling is not the intellectual, and they don't need to be. Again, this is not, just Michelin star restaurant. We're going to McDonald's. So we're not gonna get a bunch of like elite bodybuilders and like the most like food critic and foodies, going to McDonald's. Just gonna be the gang, the homies, just having fun.
Fit that description. They are so dead set on creating an invincible, all-powerful protagonist that they forget to craft a cohesive story or a character arc of any kind. And that's where solo leveling comes in. It creates a straightforward, simple, but ultimately cohesive story. It creates character dynamics, it creates a character arc. An extremely simple one, yes, but an arc nonetheless. That's better than nothing. By doing the bare minimum in these departments, the show quietly tells the audience that it's okay to like it, and by doing so, it unlocks its true potential. It relies on the audience's inherent desire to watch a simple, straightforward, action-heavy story, and fixes up any loose ends that might make it feel too self-inserty or too wish-fulfillment-y. Neither of those are real words, but I hope you understand my point.
Yeah.
What happens when you take a work that's excellent as a power fantasy and possible as a regular story? You get solo leveling, a guilty pleasure with very little guilt involved. Fans who watch anime with the intention of being entertained, which I hope is the vast majority, are entertained by solo leveling. The numbers don't lie. Even if you aren't crazy about it, I think most of you can agree that it's a fun show and that there's nothing explicitly wrong with it. The only people who outright hate solo leveling,
usually the people who aren't part of the trend, the people who reject it because they feel like they're missing out, and the pretentious motherfuckers who feel like they need to shun anime if it's not like the most intellectual work of art ever.
based on my limited experience being on the internet, are those pseudo-intellectual elitist types. Here's the thing, I hate to be that guy. I hate to be all, oh, my taste is superior to yours. I know my channel name suggests otherwise, but it's true. I don't like saying stuff like that, but I'll make an exception. Chances are I've seen and read a lot more than you, regardless of the genre and regardless of who you is.
Damn, okay, I like this. You'll stand on business. Tell us more about your credentials.
With that in mind, all I'll say is that it's okay to simply enjoy a show. It's okay to just sit down and have fun. Not every show needs to make you rethink your entire worldview. Solo leveling in particular.
That's right. We're here at McDonald's to eat a goddamn Big Mac and to have a fun time, alright? I'm not here trying to get a fucking fancy ass suit on, trying to go to a 3-star French Michelin restaurant, okay? I'm not here to do that. I don't want to do that, okay? I'm not here to, again, watch the most cathartic, piece of writing that challenges my worldview and rethink everything that I've lived through and to give me this great, reflection of life and what it really entails. I'm just here to fucking watch Jinmu say erect and for him to start shredding. And then for the fans to just go crazy. It's just so fun. And that's pretty much it.
does much of the work by eliminating the mistakes many of its contemporaries make. You don't need to look past anything to enjoy the show, you don't need to make any exceptions. You can simply put it on and enjoy. Hating on it or pretending that a show like it is beneath you doesn't make you an intellectual. Last time I checked, fun is in fact legal. That's about it. Liked the video? Check out
No, I can't believe people are having fun. Especially because I'm not part of it. And since I'm not watching Solo Leveling and I hear so many people are having fun, I'm going to write an essay online saying how stupid the Solo Leveling audience are. Well, guess what? They are actually stupid. But guess what? Those stupid people are having a lot of fun. And if you are so smart, if you are such an intellectual, why can't you have fun either? Why are you so always upset and trying to just, write arguments and to basically debate people online? Sometimes I feel like these pseudo intellects, it's very ironic how you claim to be so smart, yet you're a prisoner of your own mind. And you spend every day molding and seething at other people having fun. And that's pretty much it. Please go check out Probably Pretentious' channel. Here's a link to the video. Go give it a like if you did. That was a well put out, video. Basically just talking about why solo leveling is fun and why it's so popular. I'll see you next time.